Good evening and welcome to Local Matters. In Local Matters, we try and hook you up with what's going on in town, let you know, let you hear straight from the policymakers and the folks who influence what happens in our community. I'm David Futcher, Mayor of the City of Kelso in my spare time. That's a little relevant because tonight I'm not going to be the mayor, I'm just the host. We have some folks from Kelso who are going to talk to you and tell you what is going on in Kelso. I'm pleased to be joined by Steve Taylor, City Manager, and Andy Hamilton, the Chief of Police. Welcome, guys.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now, normally we'd have Barry here helping out, and I'd just be sitting here making wisecracks from time to time. Rick Winslow's filled in the last couple of weeks, but Barry's in Baja and Rick's in Rio, so you got me tonight. Anyway, guys, thanks for coming on, and we'll get to learn a lot about what's going on in Kelso. So, the biggest thing that people always want to know is, what the heck did you do to screw up that road? It's been a year, but tell us about West Main and what your vision is for that.
Sure. Well, you know that the first phase of the West Main realignment project, which converted our primary traffic route between Cowlitz Way and Ocean Beach Highway and the Allen Street Bridge, we moved that from West Main over to Catlin, which is one block to the south, and it's created a more direct route from those travelers going to and from Longview via the Allen Street Bridge. So the initial phase did the crossover from Allen up until 4th Avenue, and then it also repaved from 4th Avenue to Cowlitz Way, and made some improvements with some sidewalks and ADA ramps. But we are it is in the works to obtain funding from the state and other regional partners to complete that project, which would have a little bit better tie-in with the major intersection at Cowlitz Way and Ocean Beach.
So the next phase would just kind of widen what's there and
it would
make it better?
Yeah, it'd create a 5-lane section, and it would enhance the signalization and make the intersection work to its optimum. Although right now the intersection is moving traffic fairly well, and as you see more motorists becoming used to the new configuration.
Letting go of the past. Right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it's easy to build a new intersection. It's hard to teach people how to use it right, it seems like sometimes.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
One of the exciting things that has come out of the West Main Realignment Project is now it allows us to focus a little bit more on revitalizing West Main. And we have put together a funding package of local funding, also through our Transportation Benefit District, and program income that the city has collected over time from some HUD or CDBG, Community Development Block Grant type of funding, along with regional surface transportation program dollars and grants from the county to do a $1 million streetscape improvement project between 3rd Avenue and Cowlitz Way. And that'll be an extension of the landscape and streetscape improvements with new lighting and pedestrian-friendly walkways that you would see the extension from where the West Main Realignment Project started, and we'll continue that on through that corridor.
So kind of make it look like the new part does, make the old part look like the new part, make it a little more pedestrian-friendly, you're saying?
Yes, and add in new crosswalks, pedestrian-scale lighting, landscaping, and angled parking. So our hope is to convert that from a traffic-intense throughway into more of a pedestrian-friendly retail corridor.
Gotcha. Because a lot of it in there, there's almost even some light industrial through there. I mean, auto shops and things like that.
Exactly.
That's probably not what would be there when you finish, you think?
You know, I think what we're trying to do is find something that when you want to talk about zoning regulations or those types of things, that would emphasize perhaps the form of the development rather than the use of what's going on in the buildings. And so we will be conducting a study of the West Kelso sub-area. This is an extension of our comprehensive planning process. Of course, you know that we recently adopted our comprehensive plan, which had not been significantly overhauled since 1980, before the Mount St. Helens eruption. And we are moving forward with a sub-area plan to address some of those issues as West Kelso transforms with the new infrastructure investment that we have, and also to help implement the goals of the comprehensive plan, which is to focus on redevelopment and revitalization of neighborhoods, since our city is somewhat constrained by being able to grow outwards.
Yeah, you've got hills on one side and a river on the other, and just geographical limitations mostly.
Yes, it is.
Gotcha. So one piece that I know everybody's been looking for that you do have for growth is that piece south of the interchange, exit 36, where everybody tells me for 50 years there's a Costco coming, and there's not a Costco sitting there. Is there anything going on in that parcel for you?
You know, that's been pretty quiet right down there in the retail area, and I believe that it's really tied to the future economic development of the entire region. I think we need to have more primary jobs here, and that's why we're working closely with our regional partners, including the port, the City of Longview, and the Economic Development Council, to help promote more jobs in our region. With those jobs, there comes more pressure for economic pressure for more rooftops, and with rooftops, you see the commercial to follow. And so Kelso, with its location on Interstate 5, is in a prime position to really benefit from commercial growth in the region. But if you don't have those other actions kind of, setting down the domino effect, it's a little tough for the commercial to support something that hasn't materialized yet.
So if people aren't making money, they don't have any money to go spend at Costco or whatever place might be there.
That's right.
Gotcha. Well, along the retail side of things, the city's done real well. I think in the last year or so, they've had quite a few nice bumps at the mall there. How's that going?
You know, as we see, we saw the addition of Sportsman's Warehouse, new Regal Cinemas, Planet Fitness, and there's a lot of activity going on at the mall, and there's also from what we understand, planned future investment, and we're trying to attract some national chains for restaurants to really help draw additional activity to the mall. And when you look at where the mall was at a couple of years ago after Sears left to where we are today, you can definitely see the improvement. With Planet Fitness alone, you see how many more cars are there. And an important component of the mall, of course, is the Kelso Library, which I believe we've been there now for about going on our 4th year. And just happy to announce that this week we'll be expanding library hours to coincide with the mall's open hours Monday through Saturday. It will still be closed on Sunday, but we were able to add another staff member just a couple of months ago. And
those Saturday hours are new for the library, right? I mean, those were scaled back a few years ago.
That's correct, as well as the evening hours during the week.
Gotcha. So longer and more days. That sounds great. That costs money, and so you mentioned that's added. Tell me how you guys were able to find that. It sounds like the budget must be better.
Sure. The budget numbers came in 2014 a lot better than we had originally expected. We had greater building construction activity, permitting activity that helped bump our numbers. We also had various costs come in lower than what was projected for several of our contracts that relate to municipal court and the jail. And we're also seeing, I think, the benefits of some of the changes in personnel costs and the cost of providing benefits. Those changes that were made a couple of years ago are bringing in more savings to the city. And so City Council, a couple of months back, allocated some of those additional funds that were left over from the prior year. So it was kind of a post-final budget process, but we feel it was prudent. So that allowed us to purchase additional equipment for the police department. We added a police sergeant, and I believe the chief will talk a little bit more about the improvements in the police department here. But we also were able to invest in some other performance measurement tools, as well as working on the administration of our public records.
Good. And the library too, you mentioned there was part of that,
And
it
that
sounds
was,
like.
yes.
Good. Well, let's have to sit here too long without the chief
Sure.
saying anything. Tell us about these additions he's talking about. What's that going to do for your department?
Well, it'll help us immensely. You know, in 2009, we had 28 commissioned officers. Since 2009 to date, we're answering about 5,000 more calls during that period. So in 2009, when we had to make the budget cuts, we took a captain's position and early retired it. So it took someone from the administration of the supervision and administration from the department. And then we had 3 other officers, that 2 that were straight laid off and 1 that was early retired out. So with us being able to come back and bring back this officer's or sergeant's position to basically act in an administrative role or to help us fill that captain's. Over the next 3 years, we've got 9 of our 20-some positions that will be eligible for retirement. And it takes us approximately, any agency, approximately 14 months from the time you hire an officer to the time that they're actually earning their pay on their own and being productive in that job position. So knowing that, if a whole bunch of them were to go at once, we'd be in a little bit of a hurt. So we asked to be a little bit proactive, asked the council to let us hire ahead one for a pending retirement, thinking that, you know,
There's at least one out of 9.
probably this year we'll have at least one. And so the council, in looking at the total package, did agree with us and allowed us to hire one ahead, and then did give us the new position of the administrative sergeant. So last week we were able to, a couple weeks ago, we were able, after months of going through the hiring process, to get 2 gentlemen on board. Roy Slavin, who's originally from Vancouver but had been living at Grand Coulee, and a local kid by the name of John Dalkey, who had been working at the corrections, Cowlitz County Corrections. And we were able to hire both of them on, and they've already started, and actually they'll be at the council meeting tomorrow night being sworn in. So
Nice.
We're-
You mean last night? They were at the council meeting.
last night,
Right.
yes. Sorry about that.
Yeah, God
The
forbid.
taping got me.
That's right. We don't tape, this is a live television show. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
So, you know, I've got some mad math skills. I can tell that that's like 40% of your force that could be going out in the next, well, it
3
could go out
years.
tomorrow if they wanted, or the next, you said 2 or 3 years?
We have 5 that are eligible. We will have 2 more, or actually we have 6 now. One of them's already become eligible this year, and then we'll have a couple more next year. So, yeah, it just, everyone is in a different place as far as their retirement goals and needs, so you don't really know. And that's not something that you can plan out. Some people plan it out pretty good, but others, through just life happenings, are a little bit, don't really plan a whole lot to let you know when they're going to leave. They'll give proper notice and all of that, but 2 weeks' time is nothing for
No.
us. So we needed to be a little bit proactive with it, and some of the Longview's has done the same thing, hired ahead for positions that they knew were coming open. So we've kind of jumped on board with what they were doing and promoted it to the council, and the council saw that it was a need, and that's where we're at. Hopefully both officers then will be able to attend the academy together, because there's so many officers right now being hired in different places. The academy classes are filling up quickly. So we've got both their names in. There's a lottery type process through the Washington Criminal Justice Training Commission, and we're trying to work through that. So, but hopefully we can get them both attending the same academy. That way that they can ride together and work on different things that they're working on at the academy.
Bond over a shared
That's
academy
right.
experience, right?
Bond over a 2.5-hour commute.
That's right. So what happens in that case?
Actually, we have what's called, as most departments do, a field training officer program, and there's different phases to that program. So one of the gentlemen are coming from out of the area, so geographic is an issue. So they'll be learning that, and they can learn a number of other things, our policies, and read up on a number of things prior to, and get some of their FTO program checked off prior to having to go to the academy.
Gotcha. Well, you've been a program all along that has been noted for having a lot of stability in your workforce. So that's what leaves you in a situation, I know, where you've got a bunch of guys who could walk because they've all been there 30 years. What do you think that's going to do for your organization as you see, you know, the old crowd all kind of leaving maybe in a short period of time?
Well, we've got enough of the people there, and I think that we've set a good precedence, and our FTOs that do the training have been at Kelso for over a decade. So they're all going to learn. I don't think they'll miss that much of it. I think that they'll learn from the older officers, and that's been carried through enough that it will be a change, but I think that we'll still be able to keep the stability that we have. A lot of that's been the chiefs that we've had and what they have done. I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon, so I'll be there for a while.
Yeah, you can get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Well, let's see. So let's talk a little bit more about some of what's happening in the other departments. You know, Longview's had a big challenge in the arena of the water. How's Kelso handling theirs?
Well, again, we have award-winning water with some of the lowest turbidity rates in the state, and we're happy to celebrate those successes on an annual basis. And I believe just last week we talked about you know, public works, the public works function and the importance of that. In terms of the projects that we're doing, we have an ongoing water and sewer main replacement program. We try to allocate several $100,000 each year through an assessment process, we determine those areas that have the oldest or the most likely to fail infrastructure, and then we'll go in and replace several blocks or even up to a half mile of sewer or water main at that time. So we have a couple of projects slated for this year. We also are working on upgrading our Longview intertie with the water system that the connection that we do have to Longview's system that helps us maintain reliability, which is, you know, in addition to water quality, reliability is about the most important thing you can have, especially if you're someone, let's say, like Foster Farms, with the amount of water that runs through the poultry processing facility, you need to make sure that water's there. And that was one of the main reasons why we completed the Paxton Road Reservoir project a couple of years ago, was to really improve that reliability for the Foster Farms facility, which represents, I believe, close to half of our water and sewer usage in the city limits.
Just from one place, huh?
Exactly. So our top legislative request this year has been the replacement of two 90-year-old concrete water tanks, the Minor Road Reservoir site.
Big shiny things up there by the freeway.
Exactly, and what we've been most concerned with is we conducted a feasibility and a site seismic study for the area, and it was determined that in the event of an earthquake 6.0 or greater, there would be a 100% chance of failure. If it's less than 6.0, there's a high likelihood of failure. It's just a little bit less than 100%. And so this has been a top priority for us in getting those structures replaced. Right now there's some significant leakage in terms of between 40 to 100 gallons per minute, depending on when and how you're measuring. Basically the structures have reached the end of their useful life. So we have gone to the legislature and asked for assistance, given Kelso being a low-income community, and also from a water utility standpoint, we've been responsible in increasing rates over time. But this is we're asking assistance from the state to help us replace the reservoirs without having to go out to the market and increase the utilities debt load by any more than we have to. And so that translates into more affordable rates for our customers moving down the road. So the legislature in the House, they included a $1.5 million grant for the replacement of the reservoirs, which we believe is going to cost between $4.5 and $5 million. The Senate version did not have that in their capital budget, but we're now in the special session, and so we're waiting to hear how the reconciliation process goes. So that's from the water side. From the street side, which I think a lot of people are interested in hearing about what construction is going to occur. Of course, we do have our Transportation Benefit District, which is a $20 licensing fee that was approved by the City Council a couple of years ago, and we've now put together a decent size of fund to start working with these monies. So part of that's going to go towards repaving West Main between 3rd and Cowlitz Way as part of the Streetscape project. And then we also will be doing a 2-year or a 2-phase Tallyway repaving project that starts this year, and we'll complete that in 2016. We also have a couple of nasty intersections, Minor Road and Mount Brinion.
That's right at the top of the list.
We're going to be replacing, reconstructing those that intersection, and then another intersection at Sunrise and Harris in East Kelso. So areas that we see some significant drainage issues or areas that are failing, where the ground is failing underneath, we see a lot of heavy traffic in those particular neighborhoods, and so this will be a good safety project.
Good.
To focus on.
So that's where most of the road work's going to be then this year? A couple intersections that might plug things up, but not along in front of too many people's houses, it sounds like.
Exactly. And when you look at, we also have a non-street paving road project, and that's an LED upgrade for street lights owned by the city all throughout Kelso. We were fortunate in receiving an energy efficiency grant from the State Department of Commerce, and so I just found out today that we'll see those light bulbs going into place in probably June or July this year. So that'll help save significant dollars on an annual basis for our streets and rights of way.
So all the streetlights in the whole city are going to be replaced?
Well, actually, there are those that are owned by the city, and there are those that are owned by the PUD. So the ones owned by the PUD do not come under this. Not come under this grant.
What does it end up being then? What percentage do you think are going to be upgraded?
From what I understand, it should be over half, and so along most of our arterials and the primary thoroughfares, you'll see the new LED lights, and it's a different quality of light. Allows
different
you
color, right?
Different color, and allow you to see better at night. You don't get the fuzziness and that yellow glow.
It's going to be kind of obvious which ones are PUD and which ones are city at the end of that process, isn't it?
Absolutely. But with the savings from the electricity and then with the grant, we'll be able to repay the difference in about 5 to 6 years.
Good. And plus you'll get new streetlights out of the deal. I mean,
yes.
Even if they went back through right now and just put up the same thing, it'd be fresh at least and not falling apart anytime soon.
Exactly.
Hopefully, a little less maintenance. Good.
Another project that we do have in front of the legislature is a reconstruction of U Street in South Kelso. This would put a new roadway into effect and expand the drainage infrastructure, which is woefully lacking in that area.
Which causes your road problems in the first place because the water didn't go the right place.
Yes, yeah. If you just did a repave and you didn't do the drainage along with it, it would not be a good investment.
Yeah.
So there in the House, we have a $1.4 million Public Works Trust Fund loan that has been approved there, but in the Senate, it's in there as a grant. However, the Senate version again doesn't have the Minor Road Reservoir. So we'll be looking to see how all this shakes out here in a couple months with a special session. But we do believe that Kelso is pretty well positioned to.
So we don't get to just pick and choose what we like in one and not in the other. They do, but we don't, right?
That's right. But that's why it's important that we, as policymakers and individual citizens, communicate with our legislators to let them know what our priorities are.
And you guys brought some lobbyists on this year, I think, for the first time to help you do that. Is that right?
Yes, and the primary purpose there was to obtain assistance for the Minor Road Reservoir, but again, it's important that we have representation there, not just to speak with our own legislators, but to communicate with key committee leaders, committee staff, the governor's office, and it's just helping get your voice heard.
Gotcha. So how about anything, well, I tell you what, I shouldn't ask you too big of a question right now because we're just about through the first half. It goes real quickly, and people keep waving at me and telling me that it's time to take a break. So we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back in about 3 minutes, get some more water, and we'll be back to talk to Steve Taylor and Andy Hamilton from the city of Kelso. So stay with us.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. That's about a 30% increase in 2 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Oh, look, a redhead.
Staring contest.
You still got it.
I know.
Come alive with the forest.
The dad was cute.
You were looking right at us.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life to somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
Doesn't see race. Love is love.
When you start with Rotary, good things happen. Rotary is ordinary people working together to clean the environment, stop disease, and accomplish other extraordinary things. Learn more at Rotary.org.
The inherent right to work is one of the elemental privileges of a free people. Endowed, as our nation is, with abundant physical resources, and inspired as it should be with the high purpose to make those resources and opportunities available for the enjoyment of all. We approach this problem of re-employment with the real hope of finding a better answer than we have now.
Hi, welcome back to Local Matters. We're talking about Kelso tonight, and with me are City Manager Steve Taylor, Chief of Police Andy Hamilton. Thanks for coming here, guys.
Thank you.
Chief, we talked a little bit about some of the personnel changes in your department in the first half, and you've got a little law enforcement celebration week coming up here. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, National Law Enforcement Week, which was originally put into play by President Kennedy and then was kind of switched around by a couple of the other presidents, brings all the communities from across the United States together. This year it will be May 10th through the 16th. All of our local agencies will be participating in some sort of a celebration with regards to that. And the purpose of it is to honor those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives while on duty, and to pay respect to their family members and friends who were left behind. Last year in 2014, 127 officers lost their lives. Currently, we're at, this year, about 38 deaths so far. One of the big things that law enforcement has made is a push with a program called Below 100. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. But during National Law Enforcement Week, again, it's to remember those who have given their lives. Of course, the only officer in Cowlitz County who gave their life was a Kelso police officer, Francis Conan, and he died March 27th, 1948. He was getting ready for his evening shift, had just said goodbye to his newly married wife, and had at the time about a 1-year-old son, and had went on duty, had been on duty for about an hour when a call came out at the Wesley Hotel, which was on the West Main side of things, for some of those people who will remember that. And it was basically a domestic, which is the calls that we know that are most crucial to law enforcement. He went over there, his backup was coming. If you were 1948, there wasn't a lot of cell phones, there wasn't a lot of good radio service. As a matter of fact, the officers answered a call box when they saw a light was on. When they were patrolling downtown, they would go to that box and pick up the phone, and that would be a direct line ring down to our dispatch, and they would be able to figure out what the problem was. Anyway, he'd went up and confronted the male, and his backup was en route. As his backup was going up the stairs, a scuffle ensued between the two. The suspect, Oscar Rogers, who was about 26 at the time, Officer Conan was 33, began wrestling with him, wrestled his gun away from him, and ended up shooting the officer. The backup officers actually heard the shots as they were going up the stairs. Officer Conan was able to still effect an arrest prior to passing away, and was in cuffs when his backup got there. So, Officer Conan in 1988 was given an award by the Washington State, was given the Washington State Medal of Honor. His name is on the National Memorial inscribed there in Washington, D.C., as is another local, somewhat local across the river, Chief Painter, as his name is, along with all the other officers who've lost their lives. I've actually been back to the memorial and have been there and seen Officer Conan's, and we also have a little bit of a tribute for him at the front lobby of Kelso Police, and some of it's not there right at the moment because it's on display. The museum, as we know, has a display that we are taking part of in history of law enforcement. So we try to remember him on those days, but we also are working, and I briefly told you about a program called Below 100. And what a national group of trainers got together and said, we'd like to get this officer death toll below 100. And the question that they always ask law enforcement is, when was the last time it was below 100? And you have to go back all the way to 1943 before you find that there was less than 100 officers killed. So we got close last year with 127. I mean, that's closer than some of the other years where it's kind of creeped up a little bit. But some of the things we're training our officers to do, and And again, we have a great core group of law enforcement people here. All of us at every level work together, whether it be the patrolman level in the field or the chiefs and sheriffs at the top. We all have a good working relationship. I can call for, pick up the phone and call and basically get any assistance that I need. And we've covered for each other in the past, so we jointly all went together and sent a contingent of people. I actually attended to the Below 100 trainers course, and the Below 100 mission is basically simple. It's to remind cops that of the main tendencies of the program so that they can get that death toll below 100. And those tendencies are things that we already know, you know, wearing seat belts. We do a good job with that. Some parts of the country, some of these are a little bit more hard hit. In the South, you know, the vests, wearing bulletproof or body armor. You know, we do a great job here in the Pacific Northwest with that. But in a lot of other parts of the country, they don't. And it's not only wearing your bulletproof vest, but it's also at traffic accidents and scenes where you can't be seen wearing your reflective vest so they can be seen. It's teaching officers not to overdrive their cars, you know, going to calls and things of that nature. And to keep that mental capacity of what's important now, the win concept that came from Notre Dame and coaching and sports. So, and complacency kills. You know, we know that if you're really complacent, we know domestic violence are a rough call, and we want to keep those in the forefront with them and, you know, keep work in front of them and all of that. So we're trying, we've, Longview just held a training which was open to everyone else. We had some other people go through it. We used our cadre of trainers at that. I attended that also. And so we've got Longview and Kelso, I believe, has just about everybody through it now. The county on their training days will be running another one, and again, they're opening it to the other agencies. So it's an easy way for departments to get people in at low cost for training. And we just want to protect our people. I don't ever in my career want to have to be a part of or plan a police funeral. I'm not, that's something I wouldn't want to do. So that's what we're trying to do to help officers, and I think it's a great program. It was nationally done by officer.com and some of their people. And we've also got a number of other things that kind of hit us in May. We just had the Citizens Academy graduation, and that's a joint venture between the big three agencies, Longview, Kelso, and Cowlitz County. Last Wednesday night, we graduated out over 25 students, and that was a good time. And the Citizens Police Academy is one of those community policing courses that is 10 weeks long and lets people know what law enforcement does in Cowlitz County. And I was fortunate enough to be the coordinator years ago and was able to join Longview and Kelso together because we do piggyback off of each other for a number of things. One of the most blatant things is that Kelso Police Department does not have a K-9. So if we need the use of a K-9, we can ask for assistance from the county and or the city of Longview, and that works very well. DREs is another one. So students learn that, you know, budget, a little bit about the budget. You know, if I call 911, I want 25 cops there. And they learn when that happens and when it doesn't happen, and all those good things. Another good community policing program we've got going on is the Every 15 Minutes program. Every 15 minutes, someone's killed in an alcohol-related crash. And we do that at the high school now here about time for graduation and the summer break. And we realize that it's illegal to drink and drive, and we know that people have done it in high school, so we just try to get them to make better choices. And that's a program that's spearheaded by the Sheriff's Department, but every agency works in, takes some volunteers from the community, and Kelso's, they've been going on now for the last couple of weeks. Kelso's is actually next week, so we'll be going through that.
This week? Tomorrow?
Yes, it is.
It is.
I got my dates a little bit
Get it straight. You know, speaking of training, your department's kind of, I think, been one of the first in the county to really grab on to the to mental health training on how to deal with folks who may be, you know, coming at it with mental illness. How has that helped your department, you think?
Well, actually, we were the ones approximately 10 years ago that started it off, and that was Captain Vern Thompson, who spent a lot of time with Eric Yakovich and developed that program. And when in '9, when we lost, when Captain Thompson retired, we kind of lost that hold on it. But again, Longview Police picked it up, and I know Corporal Danielle Jenkins has come in behind and worked with that. We still have the CIT here. We were a driving force, but right now, you know, to give credit where credit's due, because of manpower, we kind of passed the torch, and they're dealing with it a little bit more. It's also changed now to what division is running it within Cowlitz County a little bit, but it is a model that was used, and of course now it's kind of a mandate for all departments to do that. So,
but how do you think it's changed how your guys respond to things out on the street? How important is it to know how to deal with those types of folks and what you're doing?
It's very important. I mean, we've seen a decline in mental health facilities, in money for mental health, so we're dealing with that aspect of people who are just not properly medicated or over-medicated or just having life issues. And for our officers to be able to recognize that and deal with it, yeah, it's huge in that respect for them to have the CIT training.
Is that most of the folks they come in contact with, you think?
To some degree, it depends on what the type of calls are that they're dealing with. When you're talking about someone being disorderly, which anyone that has a scanner probably hears 3 to 4 of those calls a day, if not more, in any one given jurisdiction, whether it be Longview, Kelso, or us, or county, you'll hear a lot of those, and a lot of those are mental health type issues.
Gotcha. So you talked a little bit about some cooperation we do with Longview in your department. That's only the tip of the iceberg on how you guys are working with Longview and other groups here, but especially Longview. Tell us a little bit about how you've been doing your building process.
Sure. You know, we went into a partnership with Longview's Community Development Department. It's been almost a year and a half now. And we've been contracting for plan review, building inspection services, and current planning services. So say you need to do a boundary line adjustment or some type of short plat. The city intakes those applications, and then we forward them on to the city of Longview to do a lot of the technical work. It's a great opportunity, especially last year we had a significant increase in commercial activity when you're looking at the Regal Cinemas and the tenant improvements over at the mall. Longview has the capacity on their staff to help us, and they've been providing timely, quality service. The other thing that's great there is that there's consistency in the building inspection and plan review process. So a lot of developers and applicants for the city of Kelso also work within the city of Longview. So I think it's been a good customer service choice that was made to continue partnering with them. And from everything we see and the feedback that we get, it looks like this could stay in place for quite some time. So we've been very happy there. We also have been working for quite some time with City of Longview on traffic engineering.
Sure.
And we ran into a little issue with the signals at Allen Street and Minor Road. And so, working with Longview, there is a solution, a cost-effective solution that was identified by their traffic engineer, Manuel Abarca. And we were able to get that turned around once we identified that it wasn't a $40,000 to $50,000 solution. It turned out to be less than $10,000, and we were able to get that intersection functioning better than it was. Of course, being that close to the interstate, I believe you have about 4 different intersections that are signalized there, and it's sometimes it's difficult to get them synchronized in a way that works most effectively.
Well, I tell you though, that was sure an example of how one little problem in one intersection in town can kind of screw up the whole flow of things. So that's good. That was good to see that.
Especially after sporting events that occur at the Kelso
Before
High School
sporting events. It's getting to there that was the problem. Getting out, man, it was green for days, but getting in was lined up to the backing up on the freeway and lined up past the mall. So that's good. Good job on getting that fixed. Of course, what caused the problem in the first place?
Well, I would say it all started with the leachate line that was coming down from the new headquarters landfill, and a significant project. And when you think about it, almost the entire length of the developed portion of Kelso, we had to do utility locate.
Bisect it there.
It did bisect it, and so there were a lot of utility locates that had to occur in a short amount of time, and unfortunately there was an error made in one of the locations, and so we had damaged the damaged the traffic the signalization sensor, and so that's what caused the problem in the first place.
Wow.
But these things happen, and so we're happy to have it back up and running, and again that partnership with the City of Longview helped facilitate that solution.
And in that process, I believe you also found some damage that you were able to repair under that intersection that could have been a lot worse if you'd never known about it, too.
That is correct, with the old storm drain lines. So.
Yeah, kind of washed out under there.
Yes.
So it's always nice to find holes before cars fall into them.
That's correct.
That's right.
So
I know a little bit about risk management, and that's the only thing I know.
Just a tad there. So one of the major projects that we have going on this year, we talked about the comprehensive plan update that occurred. Now we're moving into the rewrite of the development regulations that implements the comprehensive plan.
It's just a natural spin-off, basically, from that.
Exactly. And to most people, the development regulations are arcane. Most people never look them up in the Kelso Municipal Code, but I think the most impactful portion of that will be the zoning map. Again, we haven't had significant changes in zoning since 1980, and then we had an update in the 1990s. What we do see is, for a city the size of Kelso, we have 5 different commercial zones, and we're looking to collapse that into 3. We're also looking at combining residential zones. I mean, we don't have a lot of land that can support new subdivisions just because of our geographical constraints. And so, instead of having 3 different single-family residential zones, maybe we just have 1 with a minimum lot size. You can have it as large as you want to, but then but you can go down to that minimum lot size, and then build product that would sell and that would be marketable at a particular lot dimension that is best for that particular neighborhood.
So simplifying the different zones you've got and getting rid of ones that are unnecessary is what you're looking at.
There's that, and then also looking at areas like West Kelso and looking at areas like the downtown, and if there are specific design standards or specific regulations that we want to have for there to be a certain look or feel or a certain form of development to occur there, we can take care of those differences through what's called like an overlay zone. So that's why we're excited to see what comes out of the West Kelso sub-area plan, where we'll be interacting with business owners and residents and really determining what type of development can occur there in the future, and how do we revitalize that into a pedestrian-friendly, mixed-use urban corridor that best utilizes the opportunities available from the entire region.
Gotcha. You know, as you talk about land use and things that have developed in town the last year or so, one of them that we had Chuck Hendrickson on the show a couple weeks ago from Love Overwhelming, and I know that's something that has been a big issue in Kelso. Been in the paper about some issues they're having there, and I know it's been a challenge for the police department keeping up with some of the activity there, as well as the fire department. What do you think is the future of that project, and what have you been having to do to deal with what's gone on so far?
Well, if I can just open it up, and then I'll have the chief talk about some of the impacts that we're seeing. We had placed a moratorium on certain, low barrier type of uses, so we could go through a zoning, process and have development regulations that would best, fit that type of use within appropriate neighborhoods within the city. And so following that moratorium, the Planning Commission, had public hearings, and we adopted regulations that would have this type of facility be cited under a conditional use permit process. And so you do a special application. That application will go before a hearings examiner, kind of takes the politics out of that, and has it allows the city to have kind of a third-party judge look at particular criteria that's laid out in the Kelso Municipal Code that would hopefully address most of the impacts that a facility of that nature might have on the surrounding neighborhoods. But where the current location of the shelter is, it was formerly the Emergency Support Shelter, and they moved to a different location. So Love Overwhelming was able to come in under what would be considered a continuing use as an emergency shelter. And so they did not have to follow this new conditional use permit process that was approved by the City Council. So there's questions as to why did the city allow this? Well, legally we didn't really have a choice. We didn't have the ability to place significant conditions, or even the conditions that are currently listed in our code if a new emergency shelter were to locate in the city at this time. So it is what it is, and this is one of the reasons why you have development regulations and zoning in place. And when you look at the strength of state law and being able to use your private property, and if you start using your property in one fashion and zoning changes around you, you have a grandfathered right to use it, and to continue using that as such. And so that's where we are at. But we unfortunately, we have seen some significant impacts that are related to the facility on our ability to provide emergency support services, as well as fire and EMS, which is run through Cowlitz too. But Chief, what do you have to say?
It's been very taxing on our officers. When you talk about dealing with people with mental health issues, we have seen an influx since the first of the year. The emergency support shelter in 2014 had approximately 12 calls for service to it. We've answered over 160 in the time since that shelter has been open. We realize that they have a number of programs up there. I think you did a segment on it. And they have some great programs. But the two that really create a large amount of problems is the Daily Living Essential Cafe that they call, excuse me, and the emergency shelter. And we have met with the director, and we've asked him to maybe adapt his business model for that, because we're hearing things from numerous people who have been inside there that it's not safe. We know there are families there. The Housing First model that they run, we know from here recently, Utah has had great success for it. That's a great program. We have no problems with that. But when we're having people who are being assaulted and not safe in that shelter, and illegal activities are going on around the shelter generated by the clients, taxing city services, then then something needs to change in the makeup of that. We've tried to talk to the director about that, and we're still working towards that, but they need to shore up that system somehow for that, that what they call the daily living essential cafe, where people can come in, shower, and all those kinds of things. So it has been a good tax on our system, on our officers. Numerous people from the community have talked about that. I believe last night at the council meeting they talked about that. So it's something that has made our call load go up, has shown the need for more officers, even more eventful, which some would argue, but it is very taxing on us. And they're not all coming from Cowlitz County. It's one of those programs where you build it and they'll come from wherever, and they have. And that's evident by the places that these people are coming from. One of the biggest problems we had for about a 6-week period was a Seattle resident. The shelter, as the director told you, has been full since day number 2.
Wow.
He has, what, 1 full-time staff member with...
At night, is there?
Yeah. Along with volunteers, so yeah, we are concerned about that. We've gotten complaints. We've done training classes for the county commissioners meetings, or county commissioners building on safety. We've almost every person that's anywhere near that surrounding has made complaints to the department and talked to those about us. So it is something that has brought a different dimension to our city and really taxed not only us, the fire department, the local hospital, a number of other places.
So is there any easy fix? I mean, it sounds like if they're operating in a place where they're allowed to operate, there's not really much the city can do to pull that back much. It's just voluntarily getting them to comply with what you're trying to do to improve things?
No, but I think it's important that first of all, there's an understanding as to why the facility is there. It's because you had a facility, the location there, the use was already there. I think as the director had pointed out that they had to find a building that was properly sprinkled, and this was one of them. And so, and I don't think there's any issue with the program, the types of services that are being provided, but to commingle everything under one roof and having families with young children alongside folks that may have violent histories, that's something that concerns us. So we think continued communication and talking to the people who are involved with overseeing the organization and providing the funding. I think it's a good community conversation, and I know that we'll continue to have that.
Very good. Well, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. Mr. Taylor, Chief Hamilton, appreciate you joining us. It was great to learn more about what's happening in Kelso. Sounds like things are going good. It's probably a mayoral leadership credit there. So good job. All right, so I don't have my partner here, so there's nobody to ask what's on next week, so we'll have to just go without, and you'll have to tune in and just be surprised like I will. Anyway, for the missing Barry Verrill, I'm David Futcher. Thanks for watching Local Matters. Have a great night.